Hi, it's the Anfield Wrap, not with Neil Atkinson, with Rob Gutmann, who's standing in for Neil Atkinson. And it's brought to you, as always, in association with The Athletic. They are our main sponsors for the year. They do a fantastic job. I love their stuff. I'm a subscriber, I think you call it. I'm a subscriber, yes. Check out their website and app. The Liverpool content in particular is brilliant. You can get a special offer for The Athletic via tour by going to theathletic.co.uk/The Anfield Wrap. Give it a go, kids. It's very good. And to give dissecting Liverpool post the humiliation at Watford a go, our super spreaders Ben Johnson, Paul Cope and Ian Salmon safely locked down in the bowels of the Anfield Wrap studio and headquarters in central Liverpool. Ben, where do we even start with this? It all seemed so simple, and then Watford happened. From nowhere, it feels like we've got an existential crisis on our hands. We knew who we were before Saturday. We were the greatest team that the world had ever seen. We were the supporters of the greatest team the world has ever seen. It feels like we're different people today.
Yeah, it's really weird, isn't it? It's really weird not winning and watching them not find a way to win. Like, yeah, me and Cope watched the game together at half time. We were like, yeah, it's easy this. I mean, they've done all right, Watford, but they've ran themselves into the ground.
Yes.
We'll start playing well and we'll score and we'll win 2-0. That was our and even started the second half, we started playing better. Robertson got in down the left. We started, the tempo was a little bit better, and then it just sort of fell by the wayside. And it was a really surreal feeling. Like, it's so long since you've had that sort of pain in your gut. You know, where you're sort of just there like an ache. And you're like, what's this? This is what I forgot about this. Yeah. It was horrible. It was horrible.
Yeah, it was a flashback. But I mean, I did the post-match pint video afterwards with Gareth and James Sutton Paul, and in the moment I said, I said at half time, that was as shit as I've seen Liverpool all season in that first 45, even though I had the same thoughts that Ben had, that we will eventually turn this round. By the end, I was struggling to think of a worse performance in the Klopp era, which seems a mad thing to say given how good we've been in recent times.
Yeah, I heard you say that and I thought, it's bollocks that, Rob.
But go on, you tell me. I'll tell you why I said it. Well, should I tell you why I said it? Because we created nothing.
This is because I can't give you any specific game that we were worse than that, because I don't remember past football games.
Napoli.
I shift them out of my head.
Napoli away season before last.
This is the only basis on which I'm saying that is, just think of the players we used to have. There's no way in a million years the lads we used to have didn't ever put in a worse performance than that, or at least on par with that. Like, we were crap. We used to be rubbish, and now we're boss. And where we are is the immediacy of it, and we all like, oh yeah, like, it's always the best game, it's always the worst game. But it feels so bad because of the context. Like, and I've been thinking a lot about this. I think it's done us a massive favour. I think already spinning into the optimism of it. If you think about last week, and I've seen it, you might have even been one of them on Twitter, I've seen a few people saying this. When you reflect on the whole like video thing, and like the advert they did, and we're all like, we're all raving off it, we're all laughing our heads off, and it's like we'd shifted the whole fan base's thing. It's, this footy lark's easy now. We're going to roll over everybody that ever comes before us. Now we can spread into comedy acting, and we'll take over that world as well.
The Harlem Globetrotters.
Aren't they just the best thing since sliced bread? And we're all getting too big for our boots. And all of a sudden, when we do our Corona show, that's exactly what we'll talk about. The world has a nice way of bringing you back down to earth and saying, just have a little word with yourselves, lads. And I think come the end of the season, we'll look back at this game and say, in a sort of Ferguson United type way, that did us a load of good. Because without it, I'm not sure without it, we go on to win any other trophies. I think maybe the league we win the league, it peters out. City win 3. And we're all at the end of the season going, how does it feel a bit flat? We've won the league and it feels a bit flat. I think this one is the one that gives us a massive kick up the arse.
Well, obviously, it does feel like a sliding doors moment of sorts, if that's the right metaphor, in as much as when we reflect back, it's either it all went Pete Tong on the back of the Watford defeat, or what Kopi says happens. It feels like there's very little in-betweenness that can happen.
I think it's a wake-up call. I don't think the team have become arrogant and complacent. I think we've become arrogant and complacent as a fan base. I know I certainly have. I did, pardon me, I did a video. Not even doing it for a fan. I'm sat in the chair and everything. I did one of the video shows on Thursday, so I think it's possibly my fault, because I sat there going, I can't see a world where Watford can actually even get anywhere near us this weekend. I think we're on for doing number 19. And the world went, can't you, lad? Right, well, there you go. It was horrible. It was nasty. It was embarrassing to watch. The first half, as both Ben and Paul said, first half, we're a bit flattened. But I got used to watching us do 45 minutes of flat and then coming out second half and going, you know what, there you go, there's 4 goals. We'll just, we did it against Southampton. We were flat for 45 minutes, come out, score 4. Dead easy. We're going to do that again. At 1-0 down, thought, okay, we'll score 2. 2-0 down, thought, okay, we'll score 2. 3-0 down, it's like, okay, we're genuinely buggered now, aren't we? This really isn't happening. But I think it is a wake-up call in terms of what we need to do to reorient. We know that we are not actually invincible. Obviously, we know we're not invincible now. It's annoying that we're not going to do the Arsenal record, because the Arsenal record is obviously a magnificent thing, but it did draw 12 times, and we do already have more points than they got that season. It's annoying that we won't set records all the way to the end of the season. I'd really like that, because I want us to go through the rest of the season winning everything, every single game, every single trophy, be the greatest team anyone's ever seen, and now we've thrown in this loss. But the obverse of that is there are a lot of people on Twitter who are describing this as heartbreaking and disastrous. And even if you just put it into football terms, I stood on the Cop in 1989 to watch Arsenal win the league in the last second against us. This is nothing compared to that. This is just losing a game of football. This is nothing to the shame of Steven Gerrard's last game being a 6-1 loss away from home at Stoke.
This isn't even as bad as me losing my house keys last week.
No, it's just inconvenience.
This is not that bad. Having said that, it was a shit show, Ben, and it's been coming, I would put it to you, in as much as I think since Wolves away, where we play poorly and win, but we give ourselves the credit of being able to play poorly and win, we've continued to play not particularly well and won. I think we did well at second half against Southampton, maybe second half against West Ham, but we weren't great against Norwich by any stretch. We were poor against Atletico and poor, I think, in winning against West Ham 3-2. So I think it's been coming. I think we showed our strength by being able to get away with poor form, but has it finally caught up with us, a phase of poor form?
I'm not sure. I wonder if it's a specific type of setup that is limiting our ability to play well. Because you look, we played against Atletico, we had all the ball, we were a little bit toothless in what we were trying to do, but their setup was fairly similar to Watford in that they're going to close all your space down and not let you really play, and then hit you on the break. Effectively with big strong lads. West Ham were very similar as well in the way they set up. I think they were a bit more. I think the problem we had with West Ham is they were a bit more aggressive going forward than I think we envisaged. And we'd set up to have all the ball and have Naby trying to open it up, and actually what they were doing was very similar to Watford in that they were breaking with numbers and trying to get away from us. I just think we're missing a couple of key personnel in that. Henderson to set the tempo, but also I think we missed Keita weirdly on even though he got slaughtered last week, he done all right. I think we missed Keita, we missed the likes of Shaqiri, because they had six centre halves, Watford, 6 of them. They had 2 on each forward. Now that's basically your forwards that can't get in the game. So then, you get your fullbacks up the pitch, one of them shuffles wide, close your fullbacks down, comes to the 3 in midfield.
How many did Watford have on the pitch though?
They had loads of them, lads.
They had loads of players.
Loads of defenders. They basically played 6-3-1, I think, when you look at it.
And the genius of them doing that is you can see when we're trying to break the lines, as soon as we get to the 18-yard box, they've literally got 9 players between us and the goal.
The difference though for me though, Ben, is that earlier in the season, you have to do that against Liverpool, this Liverpool. But I think we're a quarter of a yard slower. We're just off our intensity pace because we play through those teams at high octane 1-2s and we pass our way through. But if you're a quarter of a yard off in your intensity, you can't do that. And I think that's why we're being blunted. Yeah,
I agree. And I think we're a little bit lacking with the ball in terms of inspiration. We're a little bit predictable when at the moments when you're up against sides like that, because they know, okay, we'll shuffle it to the fullbacks and we'll fancy our chances of defending this ball into the box with 15 centre halves playing or whatever. And I agree, the one thing that they needed to sort out on Saturday was the intensity without the ball, and I think it was too easy for Watford to break away. So what compounds our inability to break them down was that we weren't then winning the second balls in the little bits around the box where we can then pinch and exploit where they've knocked off or they've tried to get out. We weren't able to win them balls. I think Henderson not playing is a big factor. I think Fabinho not hitting the levels he was before he got injured is a big factor. And no Milner is also, one that you wouldn't necessarily flag up, but he's one who'll dig you out, who'll work, who'll get a tempo going. I think it's just a little bit of intensity that needs to come back, but I also think playing Chelsea away is an ideal opportunity because they're not going to start with 6 centre halves. They're not going to sit there with Banks. They're going to try and play. It's a different type of challenge, and it's one that'll suit us. And I also think Bournemouth as well. I don't care who you are. Bournemouth aren't able to set up the way Watford did. I don't think they've got the players, and I don't think they've got the inclination to set up that way. He likes to play footy. So I think them 2 games coming up are the ideal way to just sort of get back on track by playing footy again. Remembering, look, not everyone's going to just sit and try and break and sit and try and break.
Okay, well, we'll come on to how we think he's going to actually approach those, because selection is the key thing with those 2 games. Paul, let's have a look. Is there something in this time of year, and not in terms of a hoodoo, but in terms of the pattern? We come out pre-Christmas, we look at it every single year, and we go, we've got fucking 9 games in the space of the next 3 weeks. Wow, what are we going to do there? And we've done really, really well. Then we know there comes this hiatus where the FA Cup, you can sort of park most of the squad. Now, and certainly by the 4th round, you can park the weekend. And now we've got this mini winter break thing coming in. Is it a question that the repetitiveness of it, not that the scorelines haven't been repetitively the same because we've done better this year, but is this a Liverpool phenomenon under Klopp that we need to be in rhythm and we have to take this pain in a way to recharge batteries for the big push ahead? Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think the simple answer to that is yes. Think about this.
Phew, because there's a mouthful to get out of that.
Yeah, can you tell us that again?
Yeah, imagine just say that again. What's the question? I think we've got to the point where the biggest threats to this football team are world wars, pandemics, and breaks.
We should do a show about a possible pandemic derailing Liverpool's title charge.
That's a good idea.
We'll do it with Ben Johnson afterwards. It'll be a great show called EPL.
Out on Wednesday.
Out on Wednesday for sod all this week. What a bonus! What a bargain. Paul, you were saying?
Yeah, and it is. I think that is the case, isn't it? Is that it's no secret that this team is better in rhythm. Because to play like we play, you have to be in rhythm. It's really difficult, and I do have some sympathy for the lads who get dropped into this side, and because they're usually crap. Like when you get dropped into this side from nowhere, everyone's like, God, they're rubbish, aren't they? And you think, well, yeah, because to play the way we play, it takes getting into the flow of it and almost remembering. It's even when they go on international duty and come back from international duty, they've had different fellas telling them different things, and they come back and Klopp's like, remember what we do? I'm like, yeah, I sort of remember it, but it might take me a week or 2 to get back. And I think that massively ties in this time to something John was saying. It doesn't take a genius to say we really miss Henderson, but I think the Henderson and Milner both being out at the same time in the middle of the pitch, it has a massive, massive effect on everything we do, not just from a footballing ability. We were talking about this in the pub. Think about that side of the pitch without Jordan Henderson there and how quiet it must become. When it's not like if you switched him out and you put Milner in, you've got another lad there who's barking and talking to everyone, and he's driving people forward by the way he plays, but also by the way he talks to everyone. Instead of that, you're putting in lads who play completely different styles of football, but more importantly, are both really quiet. Oxlade-Chamberlain and Naby Keita, I don't think they really open their mouth on the pitch because they're so focused on their own game. That's not a criticism. Loads of lads are like that, but it makes a massive difference to what you do, and all of these things all factor in together and all coming together. And Klopp said this when we first came back from the break. Everyone focuses on the games immediately after and say, well, you're not as good there. And he's like, yeah, that's not the point of the break. The point of the break isn't for now. The point of the break is in 2 months' time, because that's when you see the benefits of it. And the key now that we've lost the invincible thing to go for and all the rest of it. The key now is, well, that's only of benefit if you're still in the other competitions, because otherwise it was just all a waste of time. Because you're not getting any benefit from being fresh in April when you've got nothing to play for.
You might as well lose the invincible tag now as on the game 38.
Exactly.
It's no different.
Well, and you might as well go all out to win the FA Cup and the Champions League.
Yes.
Because that's where you're going to get the benefits of that break now. And then you can say, well, it was worth losing to Watford. It was worth losing the Invincibles tag.
I think
the other thing is, as soon as we came back from the break, he put them into a mini pre-season again, didn't he? So we were doing kind of double training sessions to get the rhythm back in, to get the fitness back up, to get them ready for a major push. And we have, under Klopp, generally had a blip in January or February. Last year we had a blip and we drew 3 on the bounce and it cost us the league. This year we've had a blip and it's not costing us anything. We've lost 1 game against Watford, and again that is why Chelsea now is so important that we actually win that game, because if we don't win that game, the media's going to talk about it as being a crisis. But in terms of putting us in a driving seat for 3 trophies, if we can beat Chelsea, Bournemouth we should go against, and then Atletico becomes a game there's a chance of giving us something to focus on towards the end of the season. The league is won. We've got the league. That's not an issue. There's no way we're dropping this from here. But to actually benefit from what we've just gone through, I think this has been our blip, and it's been the best blip that we've had in years. We used to have blips all the time. We used to have notoriously shit Octobers. We're always shit in October. Now we just moved it back to Feb, and we're getting better at being shit for a month.
And look, I keep banging on about this, and I've banged on about it loads, and I will continue to. This, I'd love to ask Klopp this question. He'll never say it. Maybe one day in the future. If it's not purposefully built on this, it looks like it sort of subconsciously is. We look like we're built on the old Manchester United, and Alex Ferguson was all right with losing games of football, because you were losing games of football because the trade-off for that is you're trying to win. He would not have been asked of being invincible and drawing 12 games. And all this stuff we've been seeing last week where we're doing the whole, we've already got more points than the United team that won the treble. I can imagine every single one of those United players going, lads, we couldn't care less. We won the treble. Yeah. Show us your extra trophies. What extra trophies do you get for going unbeaten all season? What extra trophies do you get for getting the gold on?
I
know, that's it. I thought that was good, but I've changed my mind now. Shit.
Yeah.
And that's the
it's got smaller since we can't get it.
The whole thing is, if anyone who hasn't seen it, I mentioned this the weekend to Jono. There's a soccer box with Neville and Gerrard, and they show the when we won at 4-1 at Old Trafford. And I remember going out that night with the lads, and we loved it, and we had such a good night.
Greatest time of your life.
It was brilliant, wasn't it?
Yeah.
The other end, Joe, down in Manchester, they were just laughing their heads off. They were still 4 points clear at the top of the league. They went on to win the league. And Neville turned to Gerrard when they were showing that game, and he went, Joe, what's dead funny? He went, we had loads of days like this under Ferguson, but people forget them. And what they did brilliantly was they would have a day like that, it would be disastrous, and then they just come and win 10 games on the bounce.
Ultimately,
and don't win the trophies, because that's the point.
Nobody remembers that Man United in that European Cup final were losing with 1.5 minutes to go, and they scored 2 goals in 2 minutes. And nobody remembers that. All they remember is you won the European Cup. That's ultimately all that ever matters. And this game will not matter in 10 years' time.
I think no. The weird thing is we're having, whether this is a blip or a full-blown fucking crisis of a run and we don't win for 4 or 5 games, we're still going to win the league. That's the mad thing about this. I think it's as complacent in a way, if I can say that to everyone, to say this is a blip, because we could still have another few bad results here. So we don't know. I did want to focus on individuals without, resorting to blatant scapegoatism. Dejan Lovren. Sorry, what did I say?
I can see an hour on him.
Well, he has a day.
I just wanted to say before he starts, though, it's his fault.
Is it?
Jono's fault. Jono turned to me, and everyone will get on him on Twitter because he's slaughtering him. He turned to me after 10-15 minutes and went, in fairness, he started well here, hasn't he? He's playing well.
He was, I can say,
we had like a little 2-minute chat, both like going, yeah, and you know what, he's a much better player than people give him credit for, and blah 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 blah. And then
Troy Dean tied him to a top post and left him there for the entire second half.
I can say the exact point at which his head went, and this isn't it. The criticism of Lovren for me is that he's not. It's not that he's not a good defender. It's not that he's not he's not one of the best defenders in the world. I don't think he has the right mentality to play at the level for Liverpool needs him. 9 times out of 10 he'd be great. 1 game out of 10 he'll do what he's done on Saturday. His head went. No 2 ways about it. He started trying to fight a battle with Deeney, what Deeney wants from, and Deeney's in the past, he said about Van Dijk, he said the problem is he's got no faults. You try and out-muscle him, you try and put him off his game and he's too strong for you. What Deeney's after is trying to bully you out your game, get you concentrated on him. You look at Lovren 2 minutes before half time, Gini gives the ball away. Lovren sort of loses his head a bit and empties their lad. Sound. Okay, it's a minute before half time, Deschamps. That's ridiculous because now they've got a free kick going into our box. But that's fine. Let's get back in. We'll defend it. Ball comes in. Gets flicked on. Lovren wins the first header with his hands all over Deeney, by the way.
Yeah.
Which we'd been screaming for a pen for that.
Which, but then not the issue for me is it's not that he's won the header and his hands are all over him. He just goes, he empties his position, wins the header, goes in front of Deeney, doesn't check his line at all, leaves him. Deeney's one-on-one, the keeper, has a shot. Alisson spills it, should do better, has another shot. So there's one. Secondly, I think he gives the ball away in the lead up to the goal. The throw-in.
Deeney's pinned him down for the first. He pins him down, so it just sails over his head. And he's nowhere.
But he doesn't.
I think he's pinned himself down. He's too busy thinking about wrestling.
He just ignores the ball. It's berserk.
Yeah.
And I was having an argument with Neil over, and I carried it on Sunday morning because he was saying it's Fabinho's fault.
Benny's doing the WhatsApp finger.
Yeah, and I'd had 10 pints, so I was like, oh, maybe it is. And I watched it. I got up early to watch it. I was like, when I woke up, I was like, hang on. So I got up, put Match of the Day on. Yeah, Fabinho doesn't track his man. His man's to Corey puts the ball in the box. For me, I'm looking
Fabinho
at
and Van Dijk both lose to Corey.
They do. But I'm thinking, if I'm Fabinho, I'm looking at that ball going in. I'm looking where my man is, which is what he's doing. He lets the Corey go in front of him because it's going to Lovren's head, the ball. And I think it's a reasonable choice to make as a centre midfielder to go, well, my centre half's probably going to head this. And if he heads it, it's probably going to go forwards. So I'm going to stay here because the ball's probably going to come here. He doesn't. He just ignores the ball, which was berserk. And Zakore's got a steal on him. And I just can't, for the life of me, understand how that can possibly be the he might be the wrong side of his player at the start. But other than that, I don't think he's in the wrong. And I think that for me, the problem with Lovren is, and it is a personal criticism, but it's the impact he has on the people around him. And I think the impact he has on the players around him, they're looking, they don't know what he's going to do. He does mad shit. Like ignoring the ball off a throw-in. That's berserk. What are you doing? Eddie? Do you know it's in our box? It's on the 6-yard box.
The greatest debacle under Klopp was the 4-1 against Tottenham, Wembley against Tottenham. And we have two players in our squad then who make everybody else nervous. Mignolet then and Lovren then. They just, even Matip, when he's passive, doesn't create the panic that Lovren can. Yeah, I agree with you. I have to say, though, I think the game's defining moment, I think if we get away with it, we might settle in and nick it, is the first goal. And I think Virgil van Dijk is massively culpable. Probably the most culpable I've seen him in his Liverpool career. I felt, tell me if I'm wrong here, Paul, he's guilty of sort of gross arrogance. He allows the cross, thinking that's going to be dealt with, thinking we just need to get the ball up the other end, rather than playing what was in front of him.
I take your point, and I think he is a bit at fault. But, and this ties into what Jono's saying here, it's too easy to take little moments of a player and that you can call a mistake in isolation and say that's a mistake and he shouldn't be doing that. But our whole system is built on us going the other way. Like we all say now, it's become a running thing that when I do it in the ground, when they get a corner, I say if I'm a Liverpool player in the box, I'm saying to their lads, we're going to score off your corner. That's all I'm saying to them.
Do you see that moment where Van Dijk gives Salah the eyes? You saw it on the telly in that game against Watford. They had a corner and he was signalling to Salah, I'm going to head it to you from this corner. It was unbelievably blatant.
And that's what this is all about. So what Jono's saying there is when Fabinho's assessing that situation, he's thinking, he wins it, we're away.
Yeah.
So that's all it takes. If you don't win it, well, now he's screwed. And in that goal, and you'd have to sort of even speak to them about this, because I think with all the goals we conceded, especially the first two, because the last one is just a blatant mistake from Trent.
But from an appalling header by Lovren.
Yeah, but in each of the goals we concede, it's not just one mistake. It's multiple mistakes by multiple players. And not mistakes that you could say, oh, that was an error that led to a goal, but just a small thing. So, yeah, Lovren, and he's rightly getting slaughtered because he should just head that ball, and he's too wrapped up in wrestling Deeney, like Jono's saying. That's one mistake. But if you're Lovren, I think you could turn around and say, but lads, there's two of you there could bail me out. If Van Dijk stops this cross, this becomes a nothing. It becomes I'm just wrestling Deeney, and it's hard to play Deeney. And then even after Van Dijk, Robertson, there's only one lad for Robertson to look at in that box, and he lets him get across him. And if he doesn't let him get across him, and Robertson is usually absolutely brilliant at that, by the way. He's done it with the best players in the world. He's done it with Messi, getting across him, stopping that ball, getting in. If Robertson tidies that up, we're not saying Van Dijk's arrogant, and we're saying Van Dijk does that all the time. We said it first half. The number of times Van Dijk, you literally see him go, I'm not going to dangle my leg at that, because if I dangle my leg at it and it takes a deflection, it could go in. I trust the fellas behind me. Yeah. I know this setup. I reckon you could put a YouTube channel together of 100 clips of Van Dijk doing what he did for that cross, which is, I'm trusting the fellas behind me. Now we can say, well, you shouldn't be doing that, or we can say, but this is just the team, and do you know what? Sometimes that's not going to work well. And that's just the way it is. You just have to suck it up.
You can argue it either ways, and you can be seen to be being, it's easy for someone to say, look, I was slagging Lovren on Twitter on Saturday night because I was bevied and pissed off. And ridiculous, I'd be phoning me hands. It's just, real one, a fucking fight club. Don't talk about footy on Twitter when you've had a pint. But I was slagging him, and people were saying, well, it wasn't just him, it was so-and-so, it was their fault. You can argue it either way, and it can look like you're slaughtering one individual. What I'd say is, if Lovren doesn't play, I don't necessarily think we lose the game. And I believe that, and I believe that. I'm not scapegoating him. That's what I believe. I'm not making excuses for Van Dijk. You can argue it either way. Van Dijk should do better, yeah. Robertson should do better, yeah. Should they be in the position in the first place to have to do better? I don't think they should, because if it's Joe Gomez or Matip, they just head that ball. They don't start messing about.
It's also, if Joe Gomez is there, the creativity from the back increases a millionfold, because Lovren hasn't got that creativity from the back, which is the problem in the first half. And I think it speaks about how much of what we do is based on shape and fluidity and rhythm, because you put Lovren in there and he's distorting the shape of the back four. So that first goal happens because he's distorted the entire shape of the back four by being the man who's decided to wrestle with the man instead of being available for the ball.
I'd be interested to see if you asked the players, if you were able to ask the players, or you asked somebody like Pep Linders said, what's meant to happen here? I'd think the response would be really interesting. Who's at fault? I think he's got fucking him, the shop guns, but he wouldn't say that because he's the player, and he backed him as one of theirs, and he's right, who's part of this amazing team, and it's our last to slaughter him, but we got beat and he was crap. So we can get fucking slaughtered.
And it does go further than that, because it goes into what you've all been saying before. And it goes further than he's not as good. We said this in pub. The funny thing we've got now is the Joe Gomez to Lovren drop off is like at the other end of the pitch. We've talked about for ages, it's too big a drop off from the front three to Divock Origi. We've got that now because Joe Gomez is so good.
What about Joel Matip?
Well, and that's the crazy thing, because I don't think anybody understands why Lovren played instead of Matip. But the big thing I was going to say is,
I think because Lovren likes a fight.
Yeah. Maybe,
I think that's what
maybe, but I don't think you can underestimate the psychological effect it has on everybody around him. That he just shows what you're saying about that Spurs game with Mignolet. In a team like this that is so well drilled and so well refined, just having that tiny seed of doubt in your mind about what this lad's going to do behind me. You saw the one I kept going back to in the game. Lovren plays a 5-yard pass to Trent and just kicks it out. Like, he plays it a yard away from Trent so he can't get to it. And Trent doesn't even look at him. He doesn't turn around and bollock him. He doesn't scream at him. He doesn't even look at him. He just stares into the mid-distance with a look on his face. Like, it reminded me of when Gerrard pinged that ball to Deggan away at Arsenal. And it's just like, lad, it's that moment of, he's just not good enough to play with me. And that in the back of your mind all the time, you can't do what you're meant to be doing then. It goes back to the Fabinho thing. If instead of going, well, I know where I'm meant to be. I'm meant to be here. I'm meant to be the other side of this player. Because that's what we've been working on for years. If instead of that you have to go, but do I?
Is he gonna
miss it? Well, then you're screwed.
It did feel like, I had to say watching it, that we now need to move on from Lovren. He belongs to an era, and an era where we all had a lot of fun, but we weren't winning shit, and we have to move on from Deggs. I felt it when he was picked. You've all echoed this. We shouldn't scapegoat him because it was a terrible all-round team performance.
Yeah, it was.
We were punchless and rubbish. I mean, Van Dijk, I think, made certainly one of his top few errors. But let's now try and look forward. Klopp echoed what you said earlier, Paul. The rest of you said that this is a positive. There's a monkey off the back in the sense that we don't have to. Let's not waste time talking about records. Let's talk about winning things. And what looms in front of us is the opportunity to win things, the FA Cup in particular. I want to discuss with Ollie, I'll start with you in a minute, Ben, how he will approach Chelsea and Bournemouth as a combined project. Before we do that, it's worth bearing in mind that the club have announced that Neil Critchley has left the under-23 setup to manage Blackpool. That's an interesting development.
Head coach
At Blackpool. It's an interesting development. I mean, Critch saw us through the win over Everton, navigated us past Shrewsbury, been a really, really great asset for the under-23s, and I think everyone at Liverpool wishes him well in the new role. I suppose it's interesting it comes at a point where you would hope the boss was ready to quietly push Critch to one side anyway and say, I'm back, I shall be taking charge of the FA Cup squad and selection.
Yeah, I think there's no doubt about it that I think in terms of the FA Cup, I think we're going to go with a relatively strong side.
Do you? No,
yeah. I don't think it's going to be
because of Watford.
No, I just think because of we want to win the FA Cup and it's Chelsea away. If it was, I don't know, Barnsley at home or someone, or whoever's left, I don't know who's left in it, but if it was someone at home, you'd see a team that he thinks could win the game. And I think what will dictate the team this time is, can they win the game? Let's give ourselves the best opportunity to win this game. In the context of, you might need to rest a few players, you might need to give some fringe players a bit of a run out, but I think it'll be relatively strong. And I don't think there was a cat and hell's chance of Critchley going at any point anyway.
So he wouldn't have got this gig anyway. This is
no.
Okay, well, Paul...
Klopp did the first leg at Shrewsbury, didn't he? Or the first game at Shrewsbury.
Yeah, that's true, he did. Paul, are you following from what Ben said, are you expecting the strength of the teams between Chelsea and Bournemouth to be indistinguishable then, to a degree? Do you know what I mean?
Yes. I think... I mean, it depends, usual caveats of it depends on the players and the conditioning and who's fit and who isn't and all the rest of it. But I think there's an argument now, like we have seen him do many times in the past in the first part of the season, to say to a core of players, you're my lads, go and play.
15 or 16?
Yeah, go and play 4 on the bounce.
Yeah, you've had your week off.
Not even 15, like 12.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I think if Jordan Henderson was fit, you might see him just go to the same 11 lads, I want you to play the next 3 games. Because you've rested, we can get, the way to get in rhythm is to play the same lads constantly. We've shown we can do it, but like this, playing every few days is not a problem for this side. It's actually a benefit. And with the teams we've got coming up, I wouldn't be making wholesale changes. And in fact, for the Chelsea game, the changes I would make, I think, strengthen us anyway. Because I'd bring Matip in for Lovren
or Gomez.
If Gomez is fit,
yes.
Yeah, obviously. And I wouldn't have played Oxlade-Chamberlain anyway at the weekend. I think there. Look, you can do whole shows on some of these players, but I think there are big doubts about Keita and Oxlade-Chamberlain and their ability to start football matches and have the impact that we need them to have reliably. I think the whole Oxlade-Chamberlain sort of coming on as a sub thing and being great, and I think he's a really nice lad and I think he's a good footballer. That for me, we said this in the pub, that for me should have confirmed, a bit like Divock Origi, that he's great at coming off the bench and having an impact on games. Yeah. Until he looks like he's got belief back in himself, and he just doesn't look like he's got that to me, then I think whilst Henderson and Milner are not available, and Milner might be back, so if Milner's back, drop him in. Lallana's your next best player, because he's the most like those lads. The impact he had the other day, he comes on, he wants the ball, give me the ball, get it, give it, and he's talking constantly. You need that type of lad. He's a captain at the end of the day. You need a captain in the middle of your pitch. So I'd go with the same 11, say, for those 2 players. Okay,
Ian, if he does, I think it's interesting Cope is thinking there, if he does go for more or less a core of 9 or 10 out of the 11, then it would be virtually the same team from Saturday. It would be the same team Tuesday, Saturday. It's Atletico that I slightly be nervous about. Much as there's a contradiction here. Much as we want intensity. Yeah, you want them in rhythm, but are you asking the same lot to play that many games that close together? Is that a risk he will or won't take, in your opinion?
It's a hard one to balance out this, because I think you could make a really good case after the weekend and after Fabinho's performance for going, stick Chirivella at the base, because he's done brilliantly in every FA Cup game and he's got the intensity, he's got the passion for it. It shows him that. I think there could be a call for Curtis Jones to drop into the midfield, because once again he's done brilliantly in the FA Cup. He's run the game each game he's been in and he wants it. You could also maybe a partial case for saying 2 of Firmino, Salah, Mane and Rob Elliott in up front, because those fresh legs could actually do something for us. I think it's a weird one because we do need these next 3 games. We need to beat Bournemouth because we can't lose twice in the league. We certainly can't do it at home because that's records dropping all over the place. That mental impact on everybody as a group. We need to beat Chelsea. We need to beat Atletico. These next 3 are all must-win games. As every other game in the season's been a must-win game. But I've got lads who are...
I would argue the must-win game in the next 3 is Atletico and Atletico alone.
Yes, definitely. That's a massive one. But I do want the FA Cup.
Sure.
I want the treble, obviously. Why should we stop being greedy just because we've lost 1 game? I'm going to continue being greedy and just go, okay, well, that's the game that we've lost this season. Let's just win all the others. Let's just go back to what we were doing.
I wonder if the rationale is we go strong tomorrow, we don't go weak against Bournemouth, but we
rotate a bit.
But we rotate
Give Curtis Jones's game.
We rotate someone out of the front 3, for example. Maybe we don't play Firmino tomorrow and we play Minamino in that role because you come on the other day. I thought he actually looked relatively bright, even though there was nothing going on around him.
There's one moment towards the very end of the game where he's moved to the left of their penalty area and he's screaming for the ball and he's gesturing exactly where he wants it, and no one's doing it for him. So the lad's got the vision to do the job.
So I think there's a possible case for one of the front 3 having a rest tomorrow, probably possibly Salah. I think it's possibly Firmino tomorrow. Then I think there's a case at home against Bournemouth to give Salah a rest, and I think Mane plays because he's been injured. He plays the 3, and you go full whack. And there might be a couple of tweaks to save some legs here and there, but I think you're talking
Fabinho in or out.
Yeah, I think you're talking 7-8 starters rather like first team, first 11 starters rather on certainly tomorrow. That's what I'll be doing. And I think if you want to be resting players or rotating with as a 3-game block, then Saturday's your opportunity to do it. Not
he works backwards from Atletico, though, doesn't he, Paul?
Well, the point I was about to make, which I think is key, if I'm right about it, is that there's no replays from now on in the FA Cup.
Correct.
So I think there's a massive psychological point here. Chelsea is win or lose.
Yeah.
Now, if you can draw away to Chelsea, then it's okay. But you can't. You win or lose. And if you lose after being beaten by Watford, you're out of another competition. You've lost 2 on the bounce. Now all of a sudden, and I was chatting about this with someone this morning, it's mad how quickly psychology changes in fan bases, in the media, amongst players. All of a sudden, you're going from feeling like Ian was saying before, we are untouchable, we are invincible, and everybody, you could feel that against the teams playing us, and this goes back to the old United and the City under Guardiola last year. Teams are beaten before they even play you. That's changed then. It's already been dented because Watford have shown. We've said this in the past. They've shown they've shown how to beat City. More teams can beat them now. Well, that's what everyone else will be thinking a bit. We lose a second on the bounce. All of a sudden, we go into a 12:30 flat atmosphere kickoff against Bournemouth, and everyone starts saying they got to draw to Chelsea, And then you start looking at your fixture list and you start saying, well, instead of going, where do we want to win the league? You start going,
where are we going to get the wins?
Everton away is hard, because they're going to be up for that and they'll be flying. Goodison will be bouncing. They had the injustice that they think against United. Then you look at Palace at home and you go, it's hodgy. And you start talking yourself the complete opposite way around.
And then the Etihad, where you go and we get beat there.
And they've just gone to the way... and think about this as well. I watched their Madrid game. Yeah. The way Pep Guardiola played that Madrid game, to me, is him firing a massive warning sign to us. That's how he'd play us. And all of this stuff that Pep Guardiola bangs on about, that he doesn't change the way he plays footy. He's only got one plan. Load of bollocks. He's changed against us in the past and he's practiced it away at Madrid, that he can be solid. They can play like that. That's what they'll do against us to beat us, or to try and beat us. So I think this game, when you say about the next 3, the must-win is Atletico, I think almost it's the opposite. I think the must-win is Chelsea, because you beat Chelsea with a good side and all of a sudden everything's forgotten again. Everyone goes, oh God, it was just a blip.
Isn't there a case, though, because of that fear, to throw Chelsea as a game under a bus? Now, he's done his best to throw us out the FA Cup. Just hear me out. I'm not saying he will, but I think there's a part of Klopp which will have gone, I can't be asked for the FA Cup. I haven't been asked with it all season. Even if we get through, we could draw City in the quarters or Man U away. You know what? I can't be asked with this. A lot of energy and a lot of risk for a competition we might not win anyway.
A competition that means nothing to him at all.
So could his thinking not be, do you know what? The follow-up game to Watford that can they bounce back game isn't Chelsea, it's Bournemouth, and we're on safer territory there. So what I'll do is I will play the League Cup team against Chelsea, and if they pull off a fucking miracle, they pull off a miracle and win on pens. But if they go out, it's not our second defeat on the bounce. Is there a case for that kind of thinking?
Put it this way, it wouldn't surprise me massively if that happened. But I think and as well I should say, what the team I said that I would play, I don't think is the team that Klopp will play. I think at the very best from what I would want, there'll be 4 or 5 changes. You'll see Curtis Jones start. I'm not sure it'll go as far as Chirivella, but there will be rotation. Matip will come back in regardless of Gomez's fitness. Nico Williams might play. But I'd be surprised if he went as far as you're saying.
There's not much difference really between those things.
And I think the biggest point is, I'm sure Neil Jones said on a show a few weeks ago, that attitude that you're talking about towards the FA Cup, which is, I think, is clear as day, isn't it? Like, just the trying to get knocked out every year, basically, since he's been there. I think that's changed internally, because whilst he might not personally give that much of a shit about it, the reality is now we are in a weird position, because the league is, for all the psychology talk, whatever, and people losing their heads, for us not to win the games we have to win to win the league from here would be the greatest collapse in sporting history, and I just don't see that happening with the games we've got left to play. So I think there is a shift towards...
Ben's face then.
My head's gone.
I think there is a shift towards you want to win the FA Cup.
Okay, well, let's begin to wrap this up. I just want to final things. We've all been counting the when we'll win the league date. Have you all looked at the fixture since Watford? Have you brought yourself to do it? I'm sure you have somewhere online. Where do you think we get to win this frigging title? That's just the final question. I don't want a massive discussion on it.
I think
pick your game.
I'm
not
going,
choice, but
I'm going
reality.
Villa at home, mainly because I'm meant to be away. So
me and all, mate.
Biggest fucking headache.
Would you come back for it from your base? Me too.
Yes.
Yeah.
I've already looked at me
from
options.
your tropical base.
I've already looked at me options. Plus, we're going to talk on the show that's out on Wednesday, the impact of the corona. Let's not fucking underestimate that. I mean, look what's going on in Italy. Look what's France have. There's nothing to say that
tomorrow.
Some of these games might get called off in the next month. In which case, people are flying over specifically for Chelsea for some kinds of for the cup lift. That might not be the last home game. All of a sudden, that might not be the last home game.
Empty stadiums are. We should do a show about this. We will. We'll come out on Wednesday. We might do the Corona special. Listen out for it, kids. Paul, which game do you think it's going to happen?
I'm edging towards Villa. I think it'll probably be Villa now, mainly because friend of the show and our good mate John O'Jacko, depending on how you like to know him by,
Paul Johnson.
Paul Johnson, is in Disneyland.
Is he?
Yeah, and has no moves. Literally hasn't. So where does Ben Jono can fly back from Spain, because it's just there?
Euro Disney.
No, he's in Euro Disney, I think.
Oh, is it Euro Disney?
Yeah, they don't have a sports bar. I've tried to watch footy,
but there's no move, is there? There isn't. You can't leave your kids in Disneyland.
No,
and there's not in the Disney Village. There's not even a snide off sports bar.
I'm really like envisioning Jacko with like a Mickey Mouse hat on and a big can of Coke.
Yeah,
as like Liverpool are in the league, watching his kids in the magical kingdom.
Yay! Ian, give me your game and then we'll wind this shit up.
Do you know what? Palace.
Well, that depends on a few other things happening.
That depends on United doing City.
That's the optimist shout. I'm going to go with the pessimist shout and go Brighton. 8 o'clock on a Monday night. We beat the shite. It's been a really, really good show. Thank you to Ben, thank you to Paul, thank you to Ian, and thank you to Lizzie for producing. Neil Acco can't come home too soon.